Welcome back, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Fenn, the Director of Sales here at REDX, and here we are for another episode of the Stability and Opportunity Series put on here by REDX. This kicked off because of all the COVID-19 pandemic, and the truth is it's just turned into something where we're interviewing great agents and experts, and we're getting really good information from them. So I'm excited for today's episode. I have Loida Velasquez with me. Thank you so much, Loida, for joining me. I'm going to have you introduce yourself in just a second. But guys and gals, everybody listening, as always, please feel free to leave your comments, ask your questions, and we'll have Loida answer those. She's got some amazing experience, some really cool things she's doing in her business. And we're going to get some good information from here in just a little bit. So whether you're on Facebook, on our website, or on YouTube, go ahead and enter your questions and things into the comments. We'll make sure to get those relayed over to me by the other members of our team. And we'll ask those questions of Loida here. Loida, thanks for joining me today.
Yes, thank you, REDX. I'm so excited about doing this because I have used REDX in the past. So I'm a fan of the product.
Well, we are glad that you're a fan. I'm really excited. There's some cool things that you're doing in your business, but can you give us just a brief introduction? Tell us how long you've been in the business and what you specialize in, and let people get to know you a little bit.
Yes. So I have been in the business. This will be my 5th year. Prior to getting into real estate, I did marketing and advertising. I worked with a lot of high profile clients in entertainment, automotive, movies, film, you name it. I was probably doing it. I was traveling a lot, and it got to the point that I just got tired of that. I didn't see myself living out of a suitcase from hotel to hotel when I'm 50. And at the same time, I was not spending a lot of time with my family. So I saw the opportunity of getting into real estate, the fact that I didn't have to work up a corporate ladder and I would be getting paid pretty much based on how much effort I was putting into the business. And yeah, ever since, that's what I've been doing. I started door knocking, and I focus mostly on cold calling and door knocking expireds and for sale by owners. And that's still something that I do today.
That's awesome. And you've got a pretty awesome YouTube channel. We were looking at it. You're over 50,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, which is fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah. And there's some really good. In fact, one of the videos you just posted recently was how to generate leads during COVID-19, which is awesome and really good information. So we're going to glean some of that information from you today. Now, prior to the show starting, we were talking about one of the things that I think is the most amazing thing that has happened in your business, and that's that every listing that you've taken, you've sold.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that a little bit, because I don't know many agents who can say that, right? Every listing that they've taken, where it's within your control to sell that
Correct.
listing, you've sold that listing. So talk us through that a little bit, because that's incredible.
Yeah. And just like you mentioned, I do want to make it clear, this is based on things that we can control. So one of the things that we do is that we're very selective with who we want to work with. There's always a lot of sellers, whether they're expireds, for sale by owners, or just a random homeowner that they're thinking about selling, but many times they're not realistic on the price. So what myself and my team do is that we don't mind turning away business, because at the end of the day, we want to put a home on the market for it to sell, and to sell quickly, not for it to sit, because it doesn't do us any good if it expires and then you're known as that agent that couldn't sell that one house. So that's pretty much what we have done with every single listing. We're very particular when it comes to who we want to work with. We're also very specific and do a lot of research on the pricing, because ultimately that's what's going to cause a home to sell, the price. And we've gotten very good at a combination of all of those things, which has led us to having the results that we have.
That is amazing. And I love that. I love that you can be selective. Excuse me. I love that you can be selective with who you choose to work with, because then it does allow you to make sure that you have a really good record like that. What are some of the things that you'll do with a potential seller to make sure that the home is priced correctly?
Well, we go over the comparables, the homes that have sold in the area, the homes that are currently active. We compare the condition. I think any agent that's listening to this has probably encountered a homeowner that brings up a comparable, or so they think it's a comparable, but it's not really. And it's a home that's maybe 1,000 square feet bigger, that's much nicer. And they think that, oh, that one's down the street 600, mine's only 1,200 square feet smaller, but I can ask for 600. So we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we educate our sellers as to why it is that we're suggesting a certain price or what market value is, because we would be doing a disservice by overpricing it or not pricing it correctly if their goal is to move or if they have a certain time frame by when they want to be somewhere.
So this leads me to another question, and that's if you're being real selective, how often do you go on listing appointments and you turn down listing the home because they're unrealistic?
So something that we do is that when we pre-qualify a seller, we ask a lot of questions. And in those questions, it's what price are you thinking you want to put your home on the market for? What is the lowest price you think you would consider? Then once we are doing our homework prior to the actual appointment, if we see that there's a huge difference, we'll be proactive and call the seller and find out where they arrived with the numbers that they had given us. And if right there we see that we're just not meeting eye to eye, at that point we'll just cancel the appointment, because we don't want to show up and drive and then go to someone's house only for them to not sign. My goal and my team's goal is that whenever we go on an appointment, we're getting a contract signed. So we do a lot of the work before we go in person to make sure that we get their numbers right.
That is awesome. That's really awesome. So walk me through that a little bit more in detail. You set a listing appointment. What happens in between listing appointment setting the appointment and actually going on the appointment? Because it sounds like there's a pre-qualification process that you'll go through. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So let's say I am cold calling an expired and I have set an appointment. It's like they still are very motivated to move. They're open to meeting with me. When I have set the appointment on the phone, I will go on and ask them a list of questions, because I need to get more information so that I can do my homework prior to our meeting. I'm just not going to wing it or show up, like bring paperwork, and then everything's going to be a surprise. So some of the questions that I do ask after I have already gotten a commitment from them from when they want to meet, then I'll ask them a little bit more about the property, how much they owe, the price that they're looking for, the condition, their plans. If the home sells in less than 30 days, is that going to be a problem? And then once I get all of that information, so like let's say I speak to them on a Monday and then we set an appointment for a Saturday, in the next couple of days, I'm going to be doing my homework. I'm going to be taking a look at the comparables. I'm going to be putting together a market analysis. I will be putting together the contracts, the estimated net sheet, because I know that the seller wants to know all of this information. So if the meeting is set for Saturday, around Thursday or Friday, I will email the pre-listing packet, which includes everything that I just mentioned, so that the seller can take a look at all of this. And so let's say I send it on Thursday. By Friday morning, I will confirm that we're still good for our appointment on Saturday. And at that point, they will probably bring up whatever I think are objections. So they might bring up the price. Oh, we don't like the price, or oh, we don't like the commission. But now, because I have called ahead of time, now I have time to prepare to handle those objections in person if I feel that I can still help them out and they're still realistic.
So if they're at least within the ballpark of what you think is the normal price, right? Then, but I love that. I love that you're getting their objections before you meet with them.
Exactly.
Because then you're totally prepared. You know what their big objections are going to be, and you're prepared to have that conversation, even with maybe materials with extra comps or anything like that you can bring with you. I love that. That's fantastic. So let me just welcome some of the people here with us. We've got some regular watchers who are on every podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Pat, Robert, Grace, Adriana, thank you so much for being with us. Again, if you have questions for Loida, we want to get those questions to her. So please make sure to put those in regardless of the channel that you're watching this from, whether YouTube or Facebook. And we'll make sure that Loida answers those questions for us. So Loida, I want to ask how things have changed, if anything, since the pandemic arrived a couple of months ago. What's changed in your business, if anything, and how has it changed, and what is it that you're doing differently?
Yeah, so what we have started to do is incorporate a lot more video. So our newsletters, they have a lot more videos in them. When we reach out to our clients, it's more video text messages, because we have seen that some of the obstacles that we have to overcome is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And a lot of people think that you can't show home, you can't sell, or it's not a good time to buy or sell, when in reality, the statistics just came out from April, and we have seen that the prices of homes have remained stable. So there's a lot less people putting their homes on the market. But what we have seen, and we actually put a home on the market during the pandemic, we got multiple offers in less than a week, and we sold it, and it was a flawless transaction. Obviously, we're doing everything on our end to make sure that everyone is safe. We're taking all of the precautions necessary. And at the end of the day, we are working with the people that need our services, that have to buy or have to sell, and they don't mind what's going on because they have certain goals that they want to meet.
Are you guys using any different technologies, like any different services to do those videos, or are you just recording with your phone and sending that video through text message or through email?
When we're sending the text messages, just with our cell phone. I mean, we don't, ultimately, I tell agents, you don't need a whole bunch of fancy equipment or software to get the job done. It's as simple as you adding that person to contact, creating and filming a video just there 10, 15 seconds and sending it out. And then the person that receives it sees that it's like a very genuine message because you took the time to send it out. It wasn't like a blasted message that they can tell, okay, they probably sent this to like 300 people. So it's very simple. We just do it with the cell phone.
That's awesome. I love that it's so simple, right? I think that oftentimes people do overcomplicate things. We spend a lot of time getting ready to do something instead of just execute.
Exactly.
Right? So super, super simple. So there's a couple of questions I want to get to before we move on to other parts of the conversation. 3 of them so far. So one of them from Tara Jane Sullivan. Thank you, Tara, for writing in. She says, good afternoon. Thanks for doing the presentation. Are you willing to share your pre-listing packet? Is there anything unique in your pre-listing packet that you feel like you guys have really nailed that maybe other people aren't doing?
So the pre-listing packet, ours is very simple. I think that sometimes people think that they need 30 pages and a ton of graphics and colors and things like that. But I like to keep it simple because at the end of the day, chances are that the seller's not even going to look at it. Even when I call to confirm that they've gotten my email, they say, oh, we just glanced at it. So what I include is a net sheet, the comparables. For the comparables, I just include a list where I put like 2 that are active, 2 pending, 2 sold, and maybe 2 expireds. That way I can show a bunch of different ones. And then I include the map so that they can see where their home is located compared to the comparables. Then along with that, it would be the copies of the contracts all filled out. Any testimonials, I also send that there. And just some very quick information about myself and my team and our social media presence and what we will do to market the home. And that's it.
That's awesome. Super simple and to the point.
Yeah.
Couple other questions here, and I'm gonna ask them out of order because we were just talking about you doing your videos. This question is, what do you say in your videos? So in those 10 or 15 second videos that you're sending out, what's the message in each one of those?
Yeah, so depending who I'm sending the message to, if it's someone from my sphere of influence, it would be something along the lines of, hey, Jennifer, it's Loida. I just quickly wanted to shoot you a message to let you know that I'm still working. I know things are a little crazy right now, but if you have any questions regarding real estate or know someone that needs my help, feel free to reach out. And then that's it. Send it out.
I love
that would be for that.
So let me ask a couple of follow-up questions here regarding your sphere of influence, because obviously we want to get business from our sphere of influence. So if you're sending out videos like that to your sphere of influence, how often are you doing that over? I mean, is it once a month, once every 3 months? How often are you communicating with your sphere to make sure that you're really leveraging those relationships without overstepping the bounds?
Yeah. So our sphere of influence gets weekly emails. And in terms of like the video message or a call, it would be once a month. And many times what I have seen is that they are already following me on social media. So they're seeing me. So even though I'm not technically calling or reaching out directly to them, they're seeing that I'm still active in what I do.
That's awesome. I love that. Just keeping in touch often enough that they're top of mind, but not so often that you're in their face so much.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Lots of people joining us. Thank you so much, everybody. Some cool comments for you, Loida. Michael out in DC says, Loida, sending love and respect from Washington, DC.
Awesome.
Morty Jax, you and Brian are still some of my coolest friends. Good job. So you've got a fan base on here already, which is really cool. that you've got people joining you.
Yeah.
Let me back up here to one of the other questions that jumped in. I don't want to forget about it. This is from Adriana. She says, how can you engage a conversation when you're doing cold calling? So when you're calling out to the different lead sources, expireds, for sale by owners, maybe it's a just listed, just sold, or even your sphere of influence, how do some of those conversations begin? Because a cold call is sometimes it can be an awkward way to start off a relationship.
Yeah. I think ultimately what'll help you have a better conversation will be your tonality and your delivery of whatever it is that you're saying, so you don't sound so scripted. For example, when I'm cold calling expireds, I reach out. Obviously, they're probably already gotten so many calls before me anyway. But I asked them like, hey, James, I was calling about the home that came off the market. What are your plans for putting it back and actually getting it sold? And they might be like, oh, I've gotten like 50 calls already. And I say, yeah, I'm sure you're really annoyed, right? Are you sure I'm not like the 51st? And then I kind of chuckle or giggle. And then that kind of throws them off. So usually I have my script and I know what to ask, but depending on how they are coming across and their tone, I try to mirror it and also bring up something that might throw them off. So in this case, I threw in that little joke about being the 51st person. And then immediately I follow it up with, so that home, are you going to be putting it back on the market or what's going on? So that's usually what I do.
So it sounds like you're breaking down barriers, right? Let's laugh about the fact that I'm the 51st caller, but then you're going right back to it. Have your scripts changed? Have your scripts changed much at all during the pandemic as opposed to prior to when you're prospecting to expired listings?
Yeah. So usually what I have been adding in there in the beginning is that I say, I know things are a little crazy right now and your home came off the market. Just wanted to see, once all this blows over, what are your plans for the home? And at that point, they'll tell me, oh, you know what, we're holding off because my job is uncertain right now, or we're actually going to end up staying because I lost my job, or whatever it is. So they go on and tell me exactly their situation. Some of them do tell me that they have no idea what's going to happen, but to check back with them. So then I ask them, okay, I'm going to shoot you a text message with my info and I'll just be checking in with you. And if there's any updates that I know you could benefit from hearing, I'll definitely let you know. And they're like, okay.
Awesome. So, but it sounds like it's just maybe the introduction that's changed a little bit, but then you're right back to the normal conversation that you have with expireds. And is that because a lot of the objections are still the same? I mean, people always want to wait to sell.
Yeah.
And now the reason is why I want to wait because of Corona apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
So the rest of your script's still pretty much the same.
Yes. And what I have noticed now, especially, is that if you're making the calls, you'll be able to see who's actually motivated to either buy or sell versus who was just kind of thinking about it. Because those people that were just kind of like, well, I wouldn't want to move, they're probably not going to do anything anytime soon because it's not a priority to them. But for example, we have a lead, and this was a person that we cold call. She wants to move out to Arizona because all of her family is out there. She had a son that passed away, and the fact that she's not able to be with all her family during right now, as soon as she can.
Yeah, it looks like we having some technical difficulties here. Welcome back.
Yes. So I was talking about the seller that wants to be in Arizona with family, and she's very motivated to move. So you will still come across people that are very motivated and have to go somewhere. And that's what I have noticed in my calls. Some will be like, no, I'm not going to do anything. And some will be like, yeah, I'm ready to go. As soon as I can get on a flight and be out there to look at homes, I'm ready to get out of here.
So where you're really selective already with your sellers, right? And that's led you to this amazing record of selling every home that you've listed, right? Where you're already really selective, are you finding yourself be more, are you scrutinizing more or less during this time?
It's been pretty much the same.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have very high standards as to how we work and who we want to work with. And what we have noticed is that we still have people that want us to help them, but they're so unrealistic about the price that it's like, look, as much as I want to help you, it doesn't make sense for us to work together. So that's how we're also turning away some business, because again, we want to work with those people that see the value in us and also appreciate the fact that we're straightforward and we're going to help them if we can.
I love that. So I want to change the subject here and talk a little bit more about cold calling and expireds and FSBOs, because that's like your
Yes.
bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
Walk me through your prospecting schedule, right? So when you've got a day where you're set down to prospect, or are you prospecting every day? Some of these things I want to know, because what a lot of the viewers are going to ask is, somebody who's been in the business 5 years, who's built her business from the ground up and is finding great success, and expires and FSBOs is the central to that. What are the details of that? So how many days are you prospecting? How often do you prospect? How many hours a day? Those sorts of things. Let's get into some of that.
Yes. So I'm still prospecting 5 days a week. It hasn't changed. I start at 8 o'clock and I finish usually around 12 for my prospecting. And I start with the expireds. That takes me about an hour. After that, I move on to the for sale by owners. After that, I do some circle prospecting. If there's a property that we just sold, I'll call around that listing or that property that we sold. And then that's usually how it is. In the afternoons, I leave it for follow-up or for any appointments. Now, over time, what I have seen is that now I am getting a lot more referrals. So I'm getting a lot more agents that are sending me business, a lot of referrals from my past clients, from my sphere of influence. So then usually those are the type of people that I also make sure to handle. And usually in the afternoon is when I see myself doing that. But in the mornings, it's strictly prospecting for new leads.
I love that. 4 hours is a long prospecting session.
Some
right?
days go fast, some days go slow, some days I'll be on the phone for like an hour and I only get like 3 contacts. And another day I'll be an hour and I'll get 10. So every day and every hour is completely different, because I feel that sometimes I get questions from agents like, how many contacts do you get in an hour? And there's no magic number. Everyone's different. Every city is different. The way that I talk to somebody is different than the way that you talk to. So the results vary.
So at the end of a 4-hour session, how do you walk away from that session? Like, what are you measuring to say that was a great prospecting session versus one where you're like, that one wasn't as good as I'd hoped?
Well, my goal is always to set at least 2 appointments and make at least 40 contacts, which is a lot for especially a newer agent. So those are my commitments every single day, because I know ultimately that's going to continue to add up. Some sellers or some appointments are not going to go through, but some of them are, and some of them are going to take a while, maybe months to convert. So it's just about always filling up the pipeline. So
your goal is 2 appointments a day.
Yeah.
And then between setting the appointment and going on the appointment, you go through your pre-listed, you send your pre-listed packet, go through pre-qualification. And then from there, then hopefully taking, and we know selling listings, because you only sell the ones that you take, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So so 40 contacts a day and 4 hours, that's huge, right? I mean, that's a lot, and it's exhausting. What are some of the things that you do? What are some of the things that you do to prepare to prospect? Like, do you have a routine in the morning that you go through that, pumps you up to get ready to be on the phones right at 8 o'clock?
Yeah. So before I start, I like to write down affirmations. I have a calendar, and I like to put, today I'm going to get 2 appointments, and everybody that talks to me loves talking to me, things like that, to pump myself up, because especially if you're cold calling for sale by owners or expireds, you get a lot of angry people that are like, why are you calling me? Like, you guys are all the same. You guys are all vultures. And if you don't have that thick skin, or if you're not emotionally stable, I guess you could say, then you're going to want to quit. Like, one call is like, oh, never mind, this is not for me. So it's more about me writing down those affirmations and knowing, like, I'm talking to 40 people and they all love talking to me and they all need my help. Little things like that really help me in the mornings. And then also sometimes I'll just put some hip hop just to kind of get me pumped up before I make the calls.
I love it. I love it. So we've got a question from Adriana. She says, are there days that you've prospected and set no appointments?
Yeah, it does happen. There are days that I haven't set any appointments. There are days that I haven't talked to 40 people, but the goal is always there. Like I mentioned, every single day is different. Some days I'm like, everybody's answering the phone. And some days I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 3 hours and I've only talked to 5 people. Like, where is everybody? So yeah, every day is different. And it's not like I'm setting appointments every single day, but the intention is there.
So here's a follow-up question then. So on those days where you don't set appointments and that's the end goal, what do you do after? So what does maybe your afternoon look like, because you don't have appointments that you're going on?
Yeah.
But I also want to know what you do mentally. I want to know how you finish a 4-hour prospecting session without setting appointments, and then turn to the rest of the day with a positive attitude and go through and find success anyway.
Yeah. Well, if I haven't set any appointments, what my goal is, especially that day, is to have at least gotten some leads that I can follow up with that are somewhat going to convert, whether it's going to be next week or in 2 months or whatever it is. Because like I mentioned earlier, I always still want to continue adding people to my database so that they receive my emails. I want to get in front of them. So that's usually what I'll do. And then in the afternoons, if I don't have anything, I'll just start prospecting again and go back to older expireds.
So you'll just jump right back into it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it. That's the way to do it. Get right back to it and keep cranking.
Yeah.
What about practicing your scripts? Do you spend time practicing your scripts? Do you role play your scripts? How do you get good at knowing what to say on the phone?
Yeah. So when I first became an agent, I had all these scripts, as you can find them anywhere. And I remember Brian Casella, which you guys know, he would tell me you have to role play. And at first I'm like, but I know the scripts, like, this is silly. Why am I just going to role play? But until I actually started doing it, it got to the point that what I was role playing with the other agent, I was hearing immediately on the phone when I started cold calling expireds, and I had a response for it pretty much at the tip of my tongue. And it made me so much more confident, because now when I did start cold calling, it's like, okay, I'm waiting for somebody to throw me that objection because I know exactly what to say. So role playing really helped me with my skills and my communication and with my objection handling. And that's something, especially in the beginning, I did every single day for 30 minutes from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. So before I would start my sessions.
So as a new agent, you sat down 7:30 to 8 o'clock, practice your scripts so that by 8 o'clock you were on the phones ready, but you were already warmed up and ready to go. I love that. I think practice is highly underrated sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we go, I don't need to practice what to say. I know what to say because I'm a professional. But sometimes we get caught in those situations where somebody asks a question, we go, I don't know, because I've not thought about that. That's awesome. So there's a bunch of comments I want to get to right here. Mm-hmm. And some of them I think are related to what you were saying, where, look, the goal is appointments. Mm-hmm. If I can't get appointments, I'm focused on contacts. And if I can't get those, I'm still looking for leads, which is awesome. You're still looking for a measurement of success, which is great. So there's a few comments. One of them from Maury Jackson says, the goals are the activities, not the outcome from your activities, which is true, right? You're focused on the prospecting.
Yeah.
And Susan Eckersley, she says, yes, getting a lead appointment is prime, or getting a lead period, right? So getting an appointment, fantastic. But if I can't, I've added somebody to my database, which is really cool. But now here's a really good question from Michael Lung. So Michael, thank you. He says, how many calls do you make during a 4-hour span? So in your normal 4-hour prospecting, how many calls are you making to get to those hopefully 40 contacts and 2 appointments?
So I use Mojo's 3-line dialer, and usually in an hour, it dials out maybe around 250 numbers. So then over 4 hours, you can do the math, like 800 numbers. So
you're cranking.
It's yeah.
a whole bunch of leads. As you're using a multi-line dialer like that, is there this added necessity to maintain focus because somebody could answer at any time?
You just always got to be ready. And the good thing about Mojo is that if somebody does answer and then let's say I'm already on another call, it drops in that message. But yeah, you have to be on your toes because there might be maybe like 2 or 3 minutes where nobody's answering, and then you get that person hello, and they have to already get back into the call like, hey, how's it going? Not like, oh, that's right, I'm making calls.
I love that too. I'm a huge fan of using a dialer because I feel like it does help almost force focus you. You can't hang up the phone and then go to Facebook or YouTube or check your text messages, because somebody could be there at any moment on the other end of the line, and that forces you to stay focused. I think that even if it didn't help you be faster, which a dialer does, but even if it didn't, there's a huge benefit just in how it focuses you, which is really awesome. Yeah. So there's a couple questions still coming in, which is really awesome. That there's that people are engaging. It means what you're saying,
perfect,
they're connecting with, right? That's awesome. So Grace Chan says, how many minutes do you spend with each prospect on the phone? And then she's got a follow-up question, but let's answer that one first. How many minutes are you spending with each prospect on the phone?
It really depends on the type of conversation that I'm having. I've noticed that if it's like a solid lead, if it's like a seller, if I'm just cold calling expireds, it can be like up to 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. But if it's a wrong number or someone that's not doing anything, it's usually maybe like 2 to 3 minutes.
So when you get a wrong number, do you take advantage of that opportunity to try to still have a real estate conversation?
Yes, I do. I definitely still ask them like, okay, I'm sorry that was the wrong number, but since I have you, who do you know that might be looking to do something that's real estate related, either buying or selling, something like that. That's what I'll ask.
I love that. I think that I think a lot of times we look at wrong numbers as like, oh, I did something wrong, but everybody needs a place to live.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I admire agents that use the whoever's on the other end of the line, whether it was the intended person or not, to hopefully set an appointment or ask for a referral. And there's lots of cool stories out there of, oh yeah, I ended up doing 3 transactions from a wrong phone call,
Yeah. And it's happened to me too, where I've cold called and it's a wrong number. And I ask them the question and they tell me, oh, you know what? My parents are actually thinking of selling and they have a house in this city. And it so happened that we have sold in that city. So we just started a conversation. And yeah, I ended up listing that property, sold it above asking price, and then we moved on, but it was a wrong number.
I love that. So here's a follow-up question from Grace. She says, what's the best way to keep the conversation short and yet still build rapport and build the relationship before you move on to the next call?
Well, you really have to be listening to what they're saying and listen to their situation, to whatever problem it is that they are presenting as to why it is that they want to sell or buy. And it's like you have to incorporate what they're telling you with also the questions from your script. And that's ultimately how you'll have the best conversation that's kind of straight to the point, but you're also having a good communication where you're not being like a hammer trying to sell them, but having more like a genuine, hey, I can help you, or we've sold in your place. We've helped plenty of people in your situation. You're not the only one going through this. You're definitely not the only one getting 100 calls every single day.
Well, and I think that goes back to practice, right? Is having a good script and knowing your script well. The script is there to get you from point A to point B as quickly and efficiently as possible. And it sounds like you recognize that, right? You recognize that the script is crucial, the script is important, but at the same time, there's this idea that we're still here to serve. We're still here to serve, and that's where the listening comes in. I like how you've found the happy medium between the two, right?
Yeah, and the key is to knowing your script and practicing it so much to the point that you don't have to have it in front of you, and no matter where it is or whatever, with whoever you're speaking to, you can have a conversation, but you can still throw in the questions that you need to know in order to see if you can help them or not. But it's through practice and actually making the calls and talking to the people. It doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take some time for you to get to that level where you're so confident, whether it's on the phone or in person, to have a solid conversation and not have to worry about the script.
So I'm going to ask one question that just came in, and then I'm going to go back up the list to another question here. Michael has another question. He says, can you share your script? Is that something you'd be willing to do, the script that you use for expired listings?
Yeah. And even you guys can look it up. I use the one from Kevin Ward. That's the one that I started with. Yeah, you guys can Google it. It's very similar to Mike Ferry. Everybody is different in their style, but that's the one that I have used. And then over time, I have just kind of tweaked it to what has worked for me in terms of how I say certain words.
I love that. So there's a question from Amanda Smith. Hi, Amanda. Thank you again for joining us. Amanda's been on, I think, every single one of these along with these few other people. So thank you. She says, what's an effective way to increase your conversion rate as a newer agent? So if you were to sit down with a brand new agent, what would you tell them in order to increase their conversion, to find more success quicker?
I think there is no magic bullet or magic pill for you to get there faster. If anything, what I would recommend is for you to work on your skills, because that's what's going to give you the confidence to be able to close on the phone or in person. Because there's no point in you knowing the questions, but if you don't feel confident, like, okay, you know what, Tyler, it sounds like we should definitely meet for 15 minutes to go over how it is that I can help you. If you're not confident with saying that, then you're not going to be able to convert. And at the same time, you also have to know how to weed out the people that are like tire kickers versus the people that actually are motivated and serious and need your help.
So I have a question of my own here. So, and I don't ask this question to everybody, but it sounds like for somebody who understands practice, this will be a good question. Is how often do you come across a question from a lead that you don't get, like a new question? Because usually we get the same 10 questions, same 10 objections over and over. But how often do you come across a new one? And then what do you do to make sure that the next time that question comes, even if it's rare, that you're prepared for it?
Do you have an example of a type of question?
Oh, man. No.
Yeah, well, usually I will address it. So let's say they're asking me a question and I'm not sure. I'll say, like, you know what, Tyler, that's a great question, and I'll definitely get back to you on that on the answer for that. However, you are still motivated to sell and move over to the blah blah blah. So I address it, but immediately take control of the conversation again with another question. That way, they have to move on.
Good, and then answer the second part for me is, what do you do to make sure next time you're prepared for that?
I'll write it down. So I have a notepad in front of me, and if it's something that it's like, damn, I've never heard of it, I write it down, and then I'll go and talk to Brian or ask some other agents that I know are actually successful top agents, and I'll be like, hey, you know, I had this situation, like, what would you have said? Because I want to be ready for the next time somebody does ask you.
I love it. And it goes back to kind of this underlying theme that I'm getting from Loida, right? And that is practice your skills, right? Get better at what you do. And take the time to do that. Jennifer Bowie has a really good question. She says, what do you do with your good leads that later don't answer the phone? So you have a great conversation with somebody and then they ghost you. What happens? How do you handle those?
What I have seen is that if somebody ghosts you is because they are not that motivated, or they saw like, oh, wow, Loida is really working, but I'm not ready, so I'm just going to ignore her. So they are probably not ready to do something yet. And you just kind of have to stay on top of them through like text message or email. And eventually they'll convert once they are ready. Because unfortunately, it's kind of like, if they don't answer you, we have to wait for them on their time frame. No matter how many times you call, they're not going to answer or text, whatever it is. But it has happened to me. And then out of nowhere, I get a text message like, hey, Loida, thanks for following up all this time. We just weren't ready, but we're ready to meet now. When can you come over to the house? So it happens.
I love it. And does the time frame in between attempts to contact somebody, do you space that out if they've not answered 2 or 3 times? And I mean, do you spread it out, or do you keep trying to follow up with them on a regular, every other day basis or whatever?
No, I'll spread it out. If I have noticed that they're completely ignoring me, then one of my last attempts before I start spreading it out is that I'll call and I'll also send a text message where it's something along the lines of, hey, Tyler, it's Loida the realtor, just checking in again because you had mentioned that you wanted to move to Arizona by June. I don't want to keep on spam calling you, so just let me know if something has changed. I'm good with it. I just don't want to be bothering you. So whether you don't want to do anything now or ever, or you don't want to work with me, just let me know. And then that's it. And sometimes they'll respond or sometimes they don't.
Well, and that's a good way to kind of let people off the hook, right? Because some
Yeah,
people don't like confrontation. So
exactly.
if you say, hey, I'm good with it, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. You kind of let them down easy, but at the same time, you're showing that look, I'm here to get the job done. I put in the work, and that's probably what leads to them contacting you later, right? Is that
Yeah.
they see that.
And what I have noticed is that when I have done that, even though I have tried to communicate and get a hold of them multiple times, the moment I send a voicemail or message like that, they'll respond and they'll apologize. Like, oh, I'm sorry, we're just not ready.
That's
But
good.
at least I get an answer.
Well, and it's a lot easier for to send a text message like that sometimes
Yeah.
than on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
So Grace has a question. She says, how do you keep track of all the people that you've spoken to efficiently? What is your process? So this kind of takes us into some of the systems and things that you use. You mentioned that you're using Mojo. What other types of systems do you use to maintain and keep track of the 800 calls that you're making every day?
So Mojo is really good when it comes to keeping track of all those numbers because I can see how many dials I have done, how many contacts I have made. I also have different folders inside of Mojo where I can drop people based on how I feel they are in terms of motivation, whether it's a hot lead or someone that's going to be doing something in the future, or if it's someone that I just want to put in my database that might not be looking to buy or sell, but I had such a great conversation that I know that they'll probably remember me and refer me business. So Mojo is the one where I keep pretty much track of all of those numbers.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that one of the keys to building a great long-term business is having systems in place, right? Because it does get to the point where you've got so many people that you're keeping track of that there's not enough room in your office for sticky notes everywhere on the wall, right? I mean, it gets pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. So let me change gears a little bit here. As we look forward into the summer months, which are generally really, really good months for real estate, where do you feel like a lot of the opportunity is for agents, given the pandemic that's going on and that we've had to adjust things? Like you mentioned, you're using a lot more video.
Yeah.
A lot of places are doing virtual listings, virtual open houses and home showings and things. Where do you feel like the opportunity is for people to go out there and continue to generate business?
I think right now is a great time to start. I feel that there's a lot of agents that are kind of holding back for things to blow over, but we have still continued making calls. So you can actually get a head start now. I have noticed from my experience that there's less people making calls. When people are answering the phone, they're actually nicer. And you would think that, oh, they're going to tell you, oh, why are you calling? It's the pandemic. Like there's things more serious in the world. But again, some of them are just kind of tired of being at home and hearing the same people over and over. Then when you come in and you tell them even like a simple statistic or a market update, they appreciate it. And then you can start again, building your pipeline, putting people in a database. So come summertime, if everything is back to normal or we can do our job better, you will already have a list of a few people that you can reach back out to and then ask them if they're ready and just put their homes on the market, or if they're a buyer, get out there and start looking at properties.
Well, and you know what, that actually is really similar and the same compared to a lot of the people that we've asked that question to on this podcast. Is people are saying, look, right now there's a lot of people that are hunkering down and hiding under the bed and not getting out there and generating business. But your message is the same as everybody else's. Look, summer's coming, homes are still selling, people are still buying. And right now is the time to really make sure that you're set for those summer months, because there's a lot of people out there that are not doing that. And that means less competition. I love the fact that you feel that way with expireds, right? You're going, hey, expireds, they're not getting called by as many people. And that means that it's a gentler conversation, right? It's not maybe as hostile as sometimes expireds are, which is really awesome.
Even when I'm calling now, people tell me, oh, you're the 5th person that's calling me. But the way that I think of it, I'm like, wow, there's only 4 other agents that I'm competing with. And I know my skills are pretty good. So I'll make sure to get in there if they're actually serious and motivated.
I love that. I think that's the right way to look at it. It's not that, oh, I'm the 5th, is I'm only the 5th, right? And that's a really good thing. Well, thank you so much, Loida. This has been fantastic. There's been lots of really cool things that we've gone over. I love that what you're saying is what people are saying in the comments, right? That means that you're giving good information that people are walking away with, and
good.
They can take things away and apply those to your business. So thank you so much. Loida, if you'll hang out with me here after the show, we'll go over just some post-show notes and things. But everybody, thank you for joining us. If you have any last questions, feel free to get those in there. But make sure that you're subscribed to the updates for the Stability and Opportunity podcast. And so we have several weeks of these still planned out. So we're going to continue to be doing these. We've got great guests coming on in the future, just like we've had in the past and just like we've had today. And so make sure that you subscribe to that. If you're not, and this is the first time that you've come here to the podcast, you can go to our website, theredx.com. Wait there for 5 or 6 seconds, and then something will pop up. There's also a link that just got put into the comments there where you can subscribe. That way you get the updates on the guests, on the post-show things and updates and all the valuable information. So we can take what Loida's taught us today and we can turn it into some things that we can implement in our business. Also, make sure that you go to our Facebook page and like our Facebook page. There's fantastic information that comes out. Updates about REDX products and market things that are happening. Our YouTube channel is a fantastic source to make sure that you're getting information that you need, especially during this crucial time. And the last place to visit, if you're a REDX customer, make sure that you visit our REDX forum. There's a tremendous amount of information there where you can connect with other prospecting agents, find role play partners. There's a lot of really fantastic places, fantastic posts and comments there in the forum. Loida, thank you so much. It's been a fantastic almost hour here that we've been talking. I think that we could keep talking for several more hours about things that you're doing, but I know that you're busy and want to get back to crushing it. Congratulations on the success you've had. I think that 2020 is going to be great. Your 5th year in the business is going to be better than every single one. So Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you the next time.
Thank you.